Hey guys, tonight we're heading somewhere warm, dusty, and full of surprising smells, the savannas of 9th century Ghana, where soap as you know it doesn't exist, but people still find clever ways to stay fresh. You're trudging through thick, coppery sunlight, your feet kicking up ochre sand that clings to your skin like a second layer of clothing. There are no bathrooms, no bottles of anything labeled antibacterial, and no neon pink loofahs. Just you, your sweaty limbs, and a culture that figured out how to stay clean long before liquid soap was ever squeezed from a plastic bottle. Spoiler, you probably wouldn't survive this week, your immune system's not built for it, and your scented shampoo would be eaten by ants before sunset. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Let me know in the comments. Where are you listening from, and what time is it there? Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You're thirsty, sun-drowsy, and a little disoriented from the long trek. The savannah heat isn't the worst you've known, but it has a dry persistence, like being slowly baked. You pause at a village edge where a group of women and children are gathered in a wide circle under a baobab tree. One of them sees you, smiles like she's known you for years, and beckons. You plop down in the dusty ring of feet and laughter. Within seconds, your forearms are being inspected. They're slick with sweat, speckled with the red-brown grit of the path. A boy scoops up a handful of fine sand, almost the consistency of flour, and rubs it between his palms before offering some to you. "This is how we clean," a woman tells you with a warm grin, "before we eat, before we sleep, before we talk to anyone important." You tentatively mimic her, pressing the powdery sand to your arms. It's a gentle abrasion, not like the beach kind of sand that makes you feel like a breaded chicken cutlet, but finer, softer. It brushes off your sweat and oil, pulling dirt with it. In this world, sand isn't something to shake out of your shoes, it's an exfoliant, a cleanser, a first defense. Mainstream historians often jump to imported soap recipes when talking about cleanliness in early West Africa, but they tend to skip over this simple truth. When you live with the earth becomes your bathroom cabinet. As the sun dips lower, the woman next to you reaches for a calabash bowl. Inside is a gritty grey mixture that smells faintly smoky. "Wood ash," she says, "from last night's fire." She mixes it with water and rubs the paste on her arms, up to the elbows, scrubbing with practiced ease. Ash, sand, water, that's it, no plastic. No perfume, no foam. You start to notice how most of the people here have incredibly smooth skin, not soft like lotion, commercial skin, but resilient and glowing with a kind of matte shine. Now let's be honest, you smell like someone who fell into a goat pen, but these people, somehow they don't. Their sweat has blended with sun and ash in a way that smells earthy, even clean. It's the kind of body scent you'd find bottled at an overpriced boutique in Brooklyn and labeled Primitive Smoke No. 4. And here's the thing, historians still argue whether West African cultures of the time had a concept of clean that mapped exactly onto ours. Was it about removing dirt, or about spiritual clarity, or social acceptability? Likely, all three. But if you think cleanliness means lathering your body in lavender vanilla soap, your 9th century Ghanaian host would chuckle softly and offer you a handful of ash. The gritty texture under your fingernails starts to feel familiar, not gross, just grounding. The kind of clean that doesn't erase your body but reminds you that you're part of the landscape. One elder woman begins humming softly while rubbing her calves with ash and sand. The rhythm of her movement, the soft brushing sound, it's almost meditative. You catch yourself doing the same, slowly circling your palms across your skin. It's not a shower, but your body feels lighter. like you've let go of something. As evening arrives, a gust of wind brushes through the tall grass beyond the huts. The ash in your hair isn't uncomfortable, it's oddly comforting. You catch a whiff of firewood and sweat, and for once, that doesn't signal dirty, it signals human. You're guided to a small clay hut where you'll sleep, but before resting, a young boy offers you a tiny bowl of water and a scoop of sand. He grins. "For your feet," he says. "Tomorrow, more walking." And as your soles are scrubbed gently by his tiny, sandy hands, you realize something. In this place, with no bottled soap in sight, you've never felt cleaner. The next morning, you wake up with sand in your ears and ash in your hair, and somehow it feels right. A rooster calls out from somewhere beyond the hut, and the sky is painted with the soft pastel hues of early dawn. Before your thoughts can drift to modern conveniences like showers or shampoo, a woman pokes her head through the doorway and tosses you a bundle of cloth. "River's not far," she says. "Let's go clean you up." You wrap the cloth around your shoulders, still unsure whether it's a towel or a tunic, and follow her along a narrow path lined with whispering grasses. As you walk, she tells you about fire, how every household keeps an ember burning, and how every ember produces something magical: ash. In modern terms, wood ash is alkaline, full of potassium carbonate. Mix it with water and you get lye, the very same ingredient modern soap makers use to create those pastel bath bombs you never use. But here there's no need for fragrances or glitter. The ashes do the job well enough and they're free. You reach a communal area just outside the village. It's quiet except for a few early risers, rinsing out gourds or adjusting their headscarves. You're directed to sit beside a woman who is carefully mixing yesterday's ash with today's water in a large calabash. She offers you some with a nod. You tentatively scoop the mixture into your hands. It's not exactly appealing. It looks like thin grey porridge and smells like a fire pit after rain. But once you rub it between your palms, something changes. The texture is strangely soft, like a silky mud. You press it to your arms, and as you scrub gently, it lifts the oily sheen from your skin like it's peeling away yesterday's heat. One of the younger girls starts humming. Her hands, covered in ash paste, move in small circular motions along her forearms. Everyone here has their own technique. Some slap it on, some massage like they're applying perfume. It's methodical, familiar, even affectionate. You realize this isn't just hygiene, it's a ritual. "Not too much," the woman beside you says, motioning to your over-enthusiastic scooping. "You'll waste it," she grins. "We burn wood, but not for you." You laugh. Sheepishly, she hands you a smooth piece of gourd shell for scooping properly. "Even ash," she adds, "has rules." Historians agree that the Ghana Empire of the 9th century was incredibly resourceful when it came to daily life. With vast savannas and woodlands, fire was central to cooking, crafting, and yes, cleaning. But the records get fuzzy when it comes to personal hygiene. Were these daily ash scrubbings just for the elite? Were they universal? Historians still argue whether these practices were entirely practical or also laced with social and ritualistic symbolism. There's something deeply human about scrubbing your body clean with what you cooked dinner over. You remember the smell of last night's stew, millet, leafy greens, a hint of dried fish. And now that same fire has left behind the very thing that makes you feel fresh again. Another woman approaches, her arms coated in a pale paste. "Want to try something stronger?" she asks, raising an eyebrow. In her hands is a mixture of ash, fine crushed shells, and a touch of plant oil. It looks more like a facial mask than anything hygienic, but she applies it with gentle care to your shoulders and neck. The shells give it grit. The oil gives it glide. The combination tingles slightly, like the love child of a spa treatment and a kitchen accident. One of the children points at you and giggles. "Look, the visitor is turning grey." You grin, but inside, you're marveling. You came here imagining grime and discomfort, but somehow you're being slowly, lovingly polished, one ash smear at a time. As the sun rises higher, the group begins to gather their things. A few rinse their hands and faces with clear water scooped from a nearby jug. Others leave the ash on to dry and flake off naturally. You ask why. It protects your skin, someone says. And it's not polite to rinse before the heat comes. Another little gem from 9th century Ghanaian etiquette: don't waste water unless you really have to. Ash, in its dry form, is good at absorbing sweat. Some even use it like talcum powder, brushing it under arms or between toes before long walks. As you stand to leave, you realize your skin feels different, not chemically soft like lotion, but clean, like a clean that belongs to the earth, like the kind of clean that doesn't need validation from floral fragrance or plastic wrapping. And as you walk back toward the village, now glowing slightly in the strengthening sunlight, you remember something your guide mentioned the night before. You clean yourself to honor others, she said, so they don't carry your day's dust. It's not just about dirt, it's about dignity, community, connection. You're not just scrubbing your arms, you're showing up for people. And so, covered in the grey patina of ash, your feet crunching gently through the morning path, you begin to understand something. Soap doesn't always come in bubbles. Sometimes it comes in the quiet hush of shared morning routines and the smoky scent of yesterday's fire. You're starting to notice something peculiar. Nobody seems particularly obsessed with being clean here, not in the modern hospital sterile sense. There's no frantic scrubbing, no aggressive rinsing, no artificial minty freshness. And yet everyone is clean by some ancient metric that feels more grounded, more real. Today, you're invited to help gather plants outside the village. A group of women lead the way, baskets on heads, laughter trailing behind them like silk threads in the air. You walk through tall grasses, duck under low trees, and eventually reach a rocky outcrop where shrubs grow in tight, thorny clumps. This isn't just a foraging trip, it's a pharmacy visit, if the pharmacy offered no walls, no lineups, and definitely no coupons. One of the women plucks a handful of pale green leaves from a particular bush and crushes them in her palm. She spits gently into the leaves and rubs her hands together. Like magic. Lather. Bubbles rise between her fingers, soft and foamy. You lean in. What is that? She smiles. Soap tree. This shrub is a species of Sapindus, often called a soapberry or soapbush in modern classifications. Indigenous to many tropical regions, it contains saponins, natural surfactants that create bubbles when agitated with water. Long before organic skincare became a buzzword, people here were using leaves and fruits straight from the earth to cleanse themselves. She offers you a small branch and you mimic her movement. Sure enough, when you crush the leaves between your wet palms, you feel the slick, soapy texture start to spread. It smells faintly citrusy with a hint of wood smoke. You wash your forearms and then press the leaves to your face. It's gentle, cool, refreshing. This is one of those little miracles modern marketing loves to package and sell at a premium. But here it's growing for free, just behind a termite mound and a clump of wild grass. Another plant the women gather is even stranger, twisted roots that smell like ginger and look like they belong in a wizard's pocket. This one, they tell you, is for hard dirt from sweat or cooking oil. You take a root and watch them demonstrate. Crushed between two stones and mixed with a few drops of water, the pulp becomes a fibrous scrub. It doesn't lather, but it scours like a very polite sandpaper. You try it on your palms and suddenly yesterday's ash and oil vanish like magic. Historians still argue whether these plants were primarily medicinal or hygienic. Archaeobotanists have found traces of crushed leaves and saponin-rich seeds at ancient settlement sites in West Africa, but whether they were used for washing skin, treating wounds, or ritual cleansing remains debated. But you're not a scholar today, you're an apprentice. And as you follow the women back toward the village, your arms tingling from the herbal scrub, you can't help but feel the wisdom in this ecosystem. Every plant you passed on the way here could feed you, clothe you, or clean you. It's a landscape that doesn't just support life, it collaborates with it. You arrive back as the sun begins to arch higher, the heat thickening. A few children come running, shrieking with joy as they roll in the dust like flour-coated pastries. One lands at your feet and offers you a leaf, the same kind you just used to wash your face. "It smells good," he says proudly. "Mama puts it in water when I'm sick." So there it is, not just soap, medicine, ritual, memory. You're starting to see how hygiene here isn't a separate chore. It's woven into everything, into play, healing, cooking, gathering. You clean your skin while prepping dinner. You wash your hands while telling a story. You scrub your feet while gossiping under the moon. And maybe, just maybe, this is why nobody panics about cleanliness. It's not an emergency, it's a rhythm. By the time evening shadows stretch across the village again, you've rubbed, lathered, scraped, and scrubbed yourself in more ways than you thought possible. There's no towel, no sink, just a flat stone you use to sit and brush off the last traces of leaf pulp clinging to your fingers. And as the fire is lit and food begins to simmer, you realize your skin smells like plants. Not a specific plant, just the idea of plants. Sun-warmed leaves and earthy oils and that faint memory of citrus lather from earlier. You could bottle it and call it something absurdly expensive, like Savannah Morning, No. 7. Instead, you just inhale and smile. Because here in 9th century Ghana, soap isn't a product, it's a partnership. It's just past sunrise and you're being smeared with butter. Not just any butter though, this is shea butter, freshly pressed the day before and warm from sitting near the hearth overnight. A woman with strong hands and a soft voice kneads it into your arms, spreading it over your elbows, down your shins, behind your ears. "This," she says, "is how you keep your skin happy." You're not entirely sure your skin is happy about being buttered like a yam, but you're trying to trust the process. And surprisingly, it doesn't feel greasy. The shea absorbs quickly, leaving a slight sheen and the subtle scent of roasted nuts and sun-baked bark. If sand and ash are how you remove the world's grit from your skin, shea butter is how you protect it from the world to come. Pressed from the nuts of the Vitellaria paradoxa tree, yes, the famous shea tree, it's one of the most treasured substances in this region. In modern times, it's hailed as a miracle moisturizer, exported worldwide and pumped into lotions, conditioners, and face masks. But here, in 9th century Ghana, it's just essential, as common as salt, as revered as gold. You're led to a small grove of shea trees where the women gather seated on flat rocks, cracking open the tough-shelled nuts. You watch one woman roast the kernels over a slow fire, the scent rising in waves, earthy, fatty, nutty. Another grinds the roasted pieces on a stone slab, her hands moving rhythmically, like she's playing a slow song on an invisible piano. The resulting paste is then kneaded with water, heated again, skimmed and stirred until a thick, pale butter floats to the top. It's a long process, a labor of love, and no one complains. As you're handed a small gourd shell filled with the golden substance, you realize something. This is not just skincare, it's skin armor. In this climate, the sun is relentless, the wind is dusty, the insects are unforgiving. Shea butter is protection, nourishment, even medicine. Put it in your nose, someone says. You blink. What? For dust and bad smells, also spirits. You cautiously dab a bit inside your nostrils. It's weirdly effective. The scent of the butter cuts through the dry air, grounding and warm. Historians agree that shea butter was widely used across West Africa for centuries, not just in cooking and cosmetics, but also in ritual and medicinal contexts. Babies were massaged with it, warriors rubbed it on before battle, lovers used it as perfume. And you're using it to survive your 4th day in a world without soap. One woman tells you that applying shea after an ash or leaf scrub seals the skin, keeps out flies, and keeps in moisture. Another adds that it softens the marks left by wind and salt, because yes, you're inland, but the air still tastes faintly of the Sahara's slow whisper. You spot a young girl braiding her grandmother's hair, while slowly working butter into her scalp. Hair, you realize, is just another part of the body they refuse to neglect. The butter makes it shine like black glass in the sun. Then someone points to your cracked lips. "You need more," she says, smearing a glob on your mouth before you can object. It tastes nutty, a little smoky, not terrible. As the morning stretches into midday, you feel your skin settling into a new rhythm. It's no longer tight and dry from the scrub. It's flexible, soothed, protected. You run your fingers down your forearm and feel the difference. A soft glide, like well-worn leather, conditioned and clean. You sit near the fire later that evening, watching the light flicker off dozens of shea-coated foreheads. It glints like gold in the dusk. A woman leans over and nudges you with a grin. "You glow now," she says, "like someone who belongs." It's a small thing, this daily practice, but in a world without synthetic soap, synthetic scent, synthetic anything, it's everything. There's no soap, no shower, no shampoo bottle in sight. But your body feels attended to in ways you've never experienced. Not sterilized, celebrated. And maybe, just maybe, all your modern habits, your serums, your toners, your triple exfoliating citrus scrubs were missing this: intention, ritual, relationship. Because here, clean isn't about scrubbing away who you are, it's about honoring where you are. By now, your skin has grown used to sand, ash, and butter. It's adapting, thriving even. You're beginning to smell less like a wandering tourist and more like a seasoned log cabin. But today, the women hand you something unexpected. A small, charred bowl filled with what looks like gritty tar. "Don't eat it," one of them warns with a wink, though it does look like a burnt stew. This is a special cleaning paste, a blend of palm oil and finely ground charcoal. You dip your fingers in and feel the texture, slick, coarse, dense. It smells smoky and slightly sweet, like the remains of a barbecue you had 3 weeks ago and still kind of miss. They call it koto, or sometimes duku. The base is red palm oil pressed from the fruit of the Elaeus guinensis tree. It's thick and nourishing, the same stuff used in cooking stews and sauces. But here, it's married to crushed charcoal from last night's fire, blackened wood, ground into an almost talcum-fine dust. Together they make a paste used for skin detox, deodorizing, and sometimes even ritual purification. You're told this blend is particularly useful after hard work, or after exposure to certain spirits, though whether that means spiritual danger or just too much time in the market is unclear. The women begin applying it to their bodies in long, sweeping strokes, over shoulders, down backs, across chests and calves. You follow suit. The sensation is strange, smooth from the oil, but gritty from the charcoal. It exfoliates deeply but leaves a thin sheen of rich red oil on your skin. You feel like a polished stone, dark and radiant. One elder woman points to her knees. "Here," she says. It pulls out the fire. You blink. "You mean heat?" She nods sagely. "The kind that hides inside." Historians still argue whether these charcoal-based blends were considered medicinal, magical, or simply cosmetic. There's evidence in oral histories that certain pastes were believed to draw toxins from the body or ward off malevolent forces. Others were used purely for their deodorizing effect. And in this part of Ghana, where temperatures rise and sweat becomes currency, smelling neutral is a superpower. You try not to overthink it, but you do notice something fascinating. Once the paste settles, your skin stops sweating as much. It's as if the oil has created a breathable shield, locking moisture in, keeping heat out. You glance around and see others calmly glowing, not dripping. You're now part of the slick, soot-polished tribe. One boy offers to decorate your cheeks with a few lines of the paste. "It cools your dreams," he says solemnly. You oblige, and the result is intimidating. You look like someone who knows ancient truths and wrestles crocodiles for breakfast. The smell, oddly, is pleasant. Not floral, not sterile, just elemental, like something your body recognizes on a cellular level. Later, as you walk through the village with the charcoal still clinging to your arms and neck, A few of the older men nod appreciatively. One calls out, "Now you are clean enough to greet the ancestors." You're not entirely sure what that means, but you nod back respectfully. Maybe your ancestors are watching. Maybe they're impressed. Maybe they're wondering why you packed 3 kinds of face wash and not a single chunk of charcoal. At the riverbank, a group of girls splash and sing as they scrub the paste off in the shallows. You wade in beside them, watching the water turn faintly grey as the paste dissolves. A little one offers you a calabash scoop and says, "Pour slow." Let the paste say goodbye. There's a strange kind of reverence here. Nothing is just rinsed away, everything has a farewell. You pour water over your shoulder, then your arm, then finally your face. And when you open your eyes, you catch your reflection in the still surface. Gleaming skin, soot-shadowed cheeks, eyes that seem slightly older now. You don't look modern, you look elemental. As you walk back to the village, water dripping from your elbows, you remember something the woman said yesterday. Clean is not when you look new. Clean is when you feel ready. And you do. Ready for the next thing. Whatever that is. By now, your body is slick with shea, your skin polished with ash and plant suds, and your pores carry the wisdom of a 1,000-year-old tree. But just when you think you've cracked the hygiene code of 9th century Ghana, the village decides to raise the stakes. Today is cleansing day, not just of the body, but of spirit too. You're led by the same group of women, joined now by several men and elders, toward a shaded path winding out of the village. The mood is different, quieter, more ceremonial. As you walk, someone ties a strip of indigo-dyed cloth around your wrist. You ask, why? It keeps your thoughts from wandering, a man says, then adds with a wink, though yours seem to wander quite a lot. The path leads to a river that winds like a silver ribbon between clusters of trees. At the banks, people begin removing their outer layers, not hurriedly or shamefully, but with casual familiarity. The river isn't a place for privacy, it's a place for presence. The air is cooler here, moist and fragrant with crushed greenery. Birds chirp lazily from the canopy. You spot shallow baskets of herbs set beside smooth stones, steam rising faintly from some of them. A woman beckons you to sit at the edge of the river while she dips one of the baskets into the water. The scent hits you first. Mint, eucalyptus, maybe basil. It floods your nose, your eyes, your brain. She pours it over your shoulders, then begins to scrub. Not hard, not soft, but with a rhythm that feels older than language. Her fingers find muscles you didn't know were tight. "This is not washing," she whispers. "This is remembering." You don't ask what she means, you just breathe. The basket is filled with leaves like moro, baobab, and lemongrass. All local, all known for their antiseptic and aromatic properties. They've been steeped in warm water, then used to anoint the skin, part spa day, part spiritual tune-up. This kind of ritual, historians note, was deeply integrated into many West African cultures. While written records are sparse, oral traditions and ethnographic studies show that water was sacred, not just as a physical cleanser, but as a spiritual reset button. You didn't just bathe in rivers, you released things into them. Grief, regret, yesterday. As you lean back and let the warm, herbal water cascade over your scalp, you realize you're doing more than removing dirt. You're letting go of modern noise, traffic, deadlines, apps that send too many notifications. In this river, none of it matters. Nearby, children dunk themselves under again and again, emerging with wild smiles and glistening skin. One boy floats lazily on his back and says to no one in particular, "This is how you stop being sticky with worry." You decide that's better than any wellness blog you've ever read. The ritual continues with soft chanting, not quite a song, not quite a prayer, just a string of sounds passed from mouth to mouth, meant to remind your bones who they belong to. Someone hands you a gourd filled with Ngala root water, slightly bitter, slightly floral. You're told to pour it over your feet as you exit the water. "So the river doesn't follow you home," says an elder, eyes twinkling. "It likes to visit." It's hard to tell how much is metaphor and how much is belief, but you follow every instruction. Something about it feels necessary, grounded, historians still debate whether these rituals were tied to a codified religion or a looser spiritual practice tied to ancestors and the elements, but the function is clear. They cleansed, they unified, they reset. You didn't just wash to be alone, you washed to re-enter the world ready. By midday, the riverside smells like mint and roasted wood. People wrap in clean cloths, chatter resumes, and baskets are emptied. The water ripples softly behind you, as if whispering goodbye. And now, freshly scrubbed, herb-scented, and blissfully tired, you walk back toward the village on softened feet. You feel like a drum that's just been retuned, quiet, balanced, resonant. Someone passes you and pats your shoulder. "You smell like a story now," they say. And you smile because somehow that makes perfect sense. You wake the next morning feeling almost too clean, like your skin might slide off from how slick and shea smooth it is. But don't worry, today's routine isn't about scrubbing, it's about scent. There's no synthetic deodorant here. No sprays, no sticks, no roll-ons with misleading names like Arctic Rush or Morning Thunder. And yet, no one smells bad. Not in the way you're used to thinking of bad, anyway. In fact, everyone carries a subtle, pleasant scent, something between dry leaves, warm wood, and crushed herbs. As you wander out of your hut, a woman waves you over and fans open a bundle of dried leaves and flower pods. "Time to smell like a person again," she says. You raise an eyebrow. "What did I smell like before?" "Yesterday," she replies, as if that settles it. She presses a handful of dried petals and bark into your palms, lemony-scented kawe, a few sprigs of pili-pili, some resinous sap that's sticky and sweet. You crush them between your fingers, inhale, and it's like sniffing the inside of an old wooden chest filled with secrets and sun. These scent rituals aren't for masking dirt, they're for balancing your presence. You don't want to overpower a space, you want to join it. Someone hands you a small clay ball. It's a mixture of crushed incense resin, wildflower oil, and charcoal, rolled tightly and dried in the sun. You're instructed to warm it near the fire until it just begins to smoke. Then rub it lightly on your pulse points, wrists, neck, behind your ears. The smoke curls up delicately, not aggressively. It's like your body is quietly whispering to the world, "I am here, and I respect your nose." Historians speculate that aromatic rituals like these were linked not just to hygiene, but to status, courtship, and spiritual discipline. Certain herbs were believed to attract good fortune, others to ward off illness. And some, like the bark you're rubbing into your neck, were used during negotiations or ceremonies to signal calm intentions. You're beginning to realize that hygiene here isn't about purity, it's about harmony, with the people around you, with the elements, even with the spirits. Children walk past, giggling and tossing pods of dried flowers at each other, their laughter mixing with the warm aroma rising from a nearby bowl of burning copal. You recognize that one. Sweet, sharp, like honey left too close to fire. A man kneels near the fire and crushes something into a small pile, then mixes it with shea butter. He holds the glob out to you. "Wear this on your chest today. It keeps you light." You hesitate. "Light how?" He shrugs. "So your thoughts don't get heavy." You apply it without another word. Whatever the science or mystery behind it, there's something undeniably comforting about moving through the world, while gently perfumed with smoke and root and oil. You pass a young woman seated under a neem tree, pressing crushed herbs into her armpits and humming softly. Not hiding, not rushing, it's just part of the rhythm. One of the boys from earlier chases you down and insists you try his personal favorite, a piece of bark steeped in hot water, then dabbed on the skin like a cologne. It smells slightly sour, but not unpleasant. "Mowis one," he tells you proudly, "makes the goats like you." You file that away. You've never needed to impress a goat before, but who knows? Historians still argue whether certain scented rituals had standardized meanings or were highly individual. Some believe families passed down scent recipes like heirlooms, personal blends that whispered their lineage across generations. Others think it was more fluid, with people adjusting their aromas to fit the day, the mood, the phase of the moon. By mid-afternoon, you find yourself brushing leaves across your arms, dabbing your temples with sap, and even rolling a tiny bit of crushed flower pod between your fingers just to sniff now and then. You're not being fussy, you're being tuned. And you realize something: in a world where your scent travels ahead of your words, smelling good is more than hygiene, it's hospitality. Later, as the sun begins to fall and a soft breeze stirs the tall grass outside the village, you stretch out under the open sky. Your skin still carries hints of mint, resin, and roasted bark. It's the kind of scent that doesn't demand attention, it just lets others breathe easier around you. And in this place, that's what being clean really means. It's easy to forget, but this kingdom you're visiting, ancient Ghana, also known as the Wagadu Empire, isn't isolated. It's humming with trade, diplomacy, and the early echo of gold-rich greatness. And as with all trade networks, things flow in: spices, textiles, and yes, even the occasional scent more foreign than familiar. Today you find yourself standing at the edge of the marketplace, half in awe, half slightly overwhelmed. The air buzzes with movement. Fabrics flutter like butterfly wings, beads glint in the sun, and roasted millet steams in clay pots. But your attention is pulled by something more delicate: a pale, soft log of wood, carved smooth and wrapped in fine silk. Sandalwood. A merchant from the north, possibly Berber, judging by his accent and turban, offers you a slice to sniff. It's sweet, cool, almost creamy, with a depth that makes your lungs want to pause just a little longer. This is for kings, he says, and those who sit near them. Imported through trans-Saharan caravans, sandalwood was prized not only for its aroma but for its cooling properties. In the heat of the Sahel, scent wasn't just for delight. It was defense against heat stroke, spiritual imbalance, and, well, unpleasant smells. It was also expensive, definitely not something the average goat herder could afford to rub into his beard every morning. Historians suggest that goods like sandalwood, musk, and ambergris became deeply embedded in elite hygiene rituals across the Sahel and beyond. While common folk rubbed themselves in shea and local herbs, royalty and nobles might add an extra layer, like powdered sandalwood mixed with oil and dabbed behind the ears, or rubbed into linens and royal robes. You're invited to one such home, larger than most, ringed by stone. A low table bears jars, carved wooden boxes, bundles wrapped in soft leather. A woman uncovers a cloth to reveal sandalwood powder mixed with ash and a few drops of oil. She pats it lightly on her collarbone, then presses a small bit to your neck. "You must smell like peace before entering the hall," she says, "or else people think you bring thunder." A younger servant offers you a bowl to wash your hands, water scented with the faintest trace of sandalwood. You've never felt fancier, or cleaner. You're pretty sure this is what the word regal smells like. But it's not just about luxury. A nearby elder shares that in their culture, strong scents protect the soul. If the spirit can't find your body, it gets confused, he says. You must anchor it with smell. You ask what happens if your spirit gets lost. He grins. Maybe it follows a goat instead. Across the city-states of West Africa, scent marked more than just class. It marked occasion. You learn that sandalwood might be used before a major council, or a long journey, or a difficult negotiation. To arrive smelling pleasant meant you arrived with good intention, balanced thought, a clean heart. There's a kind of social choreography to it, like using the right fork at a formal dinner. But here, it's scent, not silverware. Historians still debate how much of these imported goods were reserved for the royal elite versus trickling down to wealthy merchants or priests. Some evidence suggests that sandalwood eventually got blended with local scents and incorporated into broader communal rituals. You can almost see it happening. A woman at the market mixing crushed baobab leaf with a shaving of sandalwood, just a pinch, making her own modest version of a royal blend. Or a boy saving the last bit of scented oil from a visiting trader to dab on before a festival. It's human nature to copy the powerful to elevate your everyday. Later that evening, you sit near a low fire where 3 elders burn a small stick of sandalwood over charcoal. The scent snakes through the air like a blessing, curling into the space between conversations. No one speaks loudly, no one rushes. Even the fire crackles politely. You realize you're not just learning about cleanliness anymore, you're learning how people arrive, not just physically, but energetically, aromatically, spiritually. Clean is not about sterile hands or hospital soap. It's about how you prepare to be seen. You inhale again, the sandalwood rising softly. It smells like welcome, like stillness, like being exactly where you're supposed to be. By now, you've bathed in rivers, exfoliated with ash, buttered up like a yam, and inhaled enough sandalwood to sedate a camel. But today, something even more subtle begins to reveal itself. Not just how people cleaned, but who got cleaned and how differently. Because cleanliness here isn't one size fits all. It's a layered system, a quiet dance of hierarchy and access. And as you follow your host into the heart of the village, that dance becomes clear. At a thatched courtyard near the chief's compound, a young boy is preparing a bath, not in a tub, but in a large basin lined with folded cloth, crushed mint leaves, and heated river stones. You blink. For who? For the noble's daughter, the boy replies without looking up. She sweats too much during lessons. You ask if everyone gets a bath like this. He finally looks at you. You're funny. Turns out, hygiene in the 9th century Ghana Empire, like many societies past and present, reflects your social status. Farmers wash at the rivers, traders use what's available on the road, maybe a cloth soaked in ash water or a bowl of cold mint. But nobles? Nobles get personal cleansing rituals curated like art installations, and it's not just about access to better materials, though they certainly have sandalwood, imported oils, and rare herbs. It's also about time. Nobles have it. Time to scrub slowly, time to dry in shade, time to scent each wrist individually. Meanwhile, a market vendor might be dabbing sweat from her brow with a leaf between transactions. Historians often glaze over this point, caught up in the dazzling gold and salt trade of the Ghana Empire. But daily routines tell a different story, one where hierarchy isn't screamed, but gently scented and carefully oiled. You're shown a room where fabric panels flutter in the breeze. Inside, a woman sits on a woven mat, 2 attendants kneeling beside her. One is applying a soft paste to her feet. The other is combing sweet oil through her hair. The woman doesn't speak. She doesn't have to. This is her space. This is her ritual. And it's a form of power, quiet, fragrant, deliberate. Outside, a group of young boys splash each other with water from a communal jar. One of them spots you watching and laughs. "We wash fast," he says. "Not like her." He nods toward the compound. But there's no bitterness, just understanding. Everyone knows their rhythm. Everyone understands their tier. Even the village healer gets special treatment. You visit her on the edge of town where her hut smells of dried roots and burnt bark. Her hands are constantly coated in a mix of oil and plant powder. But before each healing, before each blessing, she purifies herself, not with water, but with smoke. She shows you how: dried leaves on hot stones, a robe worn loosely to let the scent touch every inch of skin. "The spirit listens better when I'm clean," she says. Cleanliness, it seems, isn't just about how you feel, it's how others read you. A scented shoulder, prepared, ash-polished hands, respectful. Oiled forehead, probably important. One young girl explains it perfectly as she carefully rubs a mint leaf under her nose before going to meet her uncle. "I want to smell like someone worth listening to." Historians still argue whether these routines reinforced status or softened it. Some say nobles used cleanliness as a performance of grace and divinity. Others argue it was a rare common ground, something everyone practiced in their own way, even if the ingredients differed. You sit under a neem tree that afternoon, slowly rubbing a mixture of ash and flower oil between your palms. A passing trader sees you and chuckles. "Ah, now you're someone." You smile, but inside you wonder, someone what? Someone who belongs? Someone who understands, or just someone who smells like they do? In this world, it's not just about what you use to stay clean. It's about what you signal when you do. And so you sit, hands fragrant, skin glowing, mind quietly tracking all the little ways the body speaks its own kind of truth. You wake to the sound of flies buzzing near your ear and the soft thump-thump of a pestle in the courtyard. The sun's not fully up yet, but already the air is warming. You wipe a sheen of sweat from your neck. And then you feel it, something biting, something sharp and small and flying. Welcome to the morning mosquito chorus. Today, your lesson isn't just about staying clean, it's about staying alive. You're handed a bowl of cool, wet mud, not the silky, lavender-infused spa kind. This is thick, gritty, straight from the earth mud, mixed with crushed plant stalks and bark resin. It's a pale grey colour with streaks of dark green and smells like wet roots and last night's fire. Your first reaction? Confusion. I thought I was done cleaning. A woman laughs as she presses the mud onto her arms like a second skin. You are. Now we hide. From what exactly? Insects, heat, spirits, men sometimes. The paste, it turns out, isn't just a deterrent for bites, it's a shield, a portable layer of protection. Think of it as 9th century sunscreen, bug repellent, and skincare treatment all rolled into one gritty miracle goop. She shows you how to apply it, thin on the cheeks, thick along the shoulders, a swipe behind the knees, and always between the toes. That's where the red ants like to party. You hesitate, but eventually smear some on. It's cold at first, then oddly soothing. And soon you're coated like a well-seasoned stew pot, glistening slightly in the morning light. Out in the fields, farmers do the same, coating their forearms before lifting tools, dabbing their necks with finger-scooped paste before heading into the millet rows. Children running to school have stripes of the stuff across their cheeks like war paint. And hunters? They go all in, full body coverage, often blending the mud with specific herbs believed to confuse a predator's scent. Historians often categorize this practice as cosmetic or medicinal, but the lines blur quickly. Mud wasn't just a barrier, it was camouflage, from heat, from bugs, from danger. It allowed the body to regulate temperature while also marking cultural identity. Different clans even had signature mud mixtures. Some added crushed charcoal, others plant dye, others ground up snail shell. It wasn't just about protection, it was about presence. You help a young boy mix his own blend. He crushes mint leaves and bark shavings with surprising focus. He tells you his version smells bad to mosquitoes but good to spirits. You ask how he knows. I dreamt it, he says seriously. And you don't dare question the authority of a 9-year-old dreamer. Your own mixture is tinged with mint, just a trace of sandalwood, and a little too much ash. You smell like a fragrant bonfire and look like a walking pot of stew, but you also feel protected. Like the heat can't quite grip you, like the bugs think you're someone else. Later, at the edge of the forest, you find a group of women pounding something that looks like tree bark into powder. When asked, one says, "For the men who sleep outside, they need double armor." Turns out not everyone sleeps indoors. Traveling traders, herders, and warriors often spend nights beneath the stars, and that means full-body mud coating, sometimes mixed with insect-repelling herbs, sometimes laced with ritual ash. Even the spirits don't want to touch them, she says with a grin. And yes, some of the ingredients used do have scientific merit. Neem leaves, for instance, naturally repel insects. Crushed marigold flowers emit a scent most biting bugs hate. The cooling properties of clay and plant starches can genuinely help regulate body temperature. But you start to realize something else. These practices aren't divided into science and superstition here. They're both equally valid, equally real. Historians still argue whether such hygiene practices were coded as medicine, ritual, or simply folk wisdom. The answer, of course, is all of the above. You see it every time a woman dips her fingers into a bowl and smears a perfect stripe across a child's brow, not just to repel bugs, but to say, "I see you, I care for you, I protect you." That night, after washing off the last of your mud paste and dabbing on a bit of shea, you sit under the stars beside a man whose arms are still streaked with reddish earth. "It's funny," you say. "I never thought of dirt as part of getting clean." He nods. Clean doesn't mean empty, it means ready. And you think about that as you lie down to sleep, your skin warm and dry, your dreams scented with mint, ash, and the quiet hum of the earth. You wake up to the scent of smoke and fermented millet, but also, oddly, of citrus. It's market day, and for the first time since arriving in this time and place, you're seeing hygiene woven not just into routine or ritual, but into social performance. The village is buzzing. Women balance goods on their heads with poise that makes runway models look clumsy. Men shout greetings, children chase goats that don't want to be chased, and in the center of it all, beneath woven awnings and fluttering fabrics, are the true stars of the show, the gossipers and the groomers. You're ushered toward a low bench under a wide neem tree where 4 women sit in a loose circle, their faces dotted with patches of pale clay. They wave you over without missing a beat in their conversation, which currently involves a scandal about a man who tried to sell the same chicken to 3 different people. "You sit," one of them says, patting the spot beside her. "You need this." Before you can object, she smears a cool, damp substance across your cheek. Clay. Earthy, slightly floral, mixed with crushed leaves. It dries quickly, tugging gently at your skin, and soon your face feels like it's being gently shrink-wrapped by the planet itself. "This pulls out lies," another woman says, straight-faced. You blink. "Also sweat," she adds, cracking a smile. Turns out these face masks aren't just for beautification, they're for everything: cooling, cleansing, exfoliating, and perhaps most importantly, bonding. As the clay dries, the women lean in close to each other, trading not just herbal tips, but rumors, recipes, and affection. One woman tells you that the clay comes from a sacred pit outside the village. It's harvested only by specific families and mixed with oil from a bush that only grows in the shade of certain trees. Another chimes in, saying that it's best applied while gossiping, so it sets with truth. You're not sure if they're joking, but you notice something interesting. No one here grooms in isolation. Whether it's face masks or hair oil, hygiene is communal, tactile, and social. You scrub your feet with someone beside you. You oil your scalp while someone braids your hair. You exfoliate your cheeks while dissecting someone's love life. Historians often overlook this part. Sure, they document ingredients and tools, but what about context? What about laughter and clay in the same breath? What about the way these sessions blur the line between hygiene and therapy? One elder tells you that when she was a girl, applying clay masks was the first way she learned to sit still. You can't yell at your brother with wet clay on your mouth, she explains, so you learn to listen. The girls around her nod. And when it cracks, you talk again. You ask if boys do this too. A few of the younger women giggle. If they're smart, one replies, but mostly when they're in love. There's a quiet pride here. Skincare is not vanity, it's community maintenance. A clean face is a social offering. It says, "I showed up today. I took care of myself, so I can meet you with care too." A basket is passed around containing smooth, flat stones and a bowl of ground seed powder. You're told it's for polishing. You grind the edge of the stone against your jawline, gently buffing away dried clay and dead skin. It's like sanding furniture, but more intimate. And the whole time, the chatter never stops. Who borrowed whose sandals? What the chief's son whispered to the potter's daughter. How the rains are late and someone might be cursed. You realize at some point that you're laughing. Not politely, not as a guest, but fully, genuinely, dusted with clay and part of the circle. Historians still argue whether beauty routines in early West African societies were gendered, ritualized, or purely aesthetic. Here you are, wearing a mask that's both medicinal and metaphorical while watching relationships tighten and spirits lift through something as simple as shared grooming. By the time the clay is rinsed off with warm water and a handful of fresh leaves, your skin feels tight and new. Your face is tingling. Your heart, strangely too. You didn't just clean your pores today, you cleaned your presence. And as the women rise to head back toward the food stalls, one of them pauses and brushes a fleck of dry clay from your ear. "There," she says, "now you can hear better." And for some reason, you really believe her. It's just after dusk, and tonight your cleaning doesn't begin with water. It begins with a stick, not a toothbrush, not a comb, just a stick about the length of your finger, frayed at one end like a tiny paintbrush, and handed to you with the casual authority of someone saying, "You'll need this." A young man sits beside you, expertly chewing the end of his own stick, then working it across his teeth in smooth, circular motions. "Your mouth," he says, grinning with impossibly white teeth, "needs to be scrubbed like your skin." You take the stick, tentatively bite. The end softens, becomes brush-like. You scrub. It tastes bitter, astringent, but not bad, more like strong tea mixed with wood. This is your first taste of chew sticks, sometimes called miswax, often made from local trees like Salvadora persica, or even special neem and guava branches, depending on availability. In this region, it's usually from mahogany or kola nut trees, each chosen not just for strength, but for their antibacterial properties. There's no mint-flavored paste, no rinse and spit theatrics, just the stick, the ritual, and a surprisingly thorough clean. Historians note that chew sticks were used across vast regions of Africa and the Middle East for centuries, long before modern dental care. In fact, some studies have shown they rival, or even exceed, the effectiveness of plastic toothbrushes without the landfill problem. The young man shows you how to scrape your tongue next. "If you don't," he says, "your breath tells your secrets." He's probably joking. Probably. But even this act, simple as it is, feels sacred. The chewing, the brushing, the scraping, it's all done with slow, precise intention. You realize that here, oral hygiene is as social and symbolic as body cleansing. Clean teeth mean a clear voice. A sweet mouth means a ready spirit. Later, you're invited to sit with elders around a fire. A woman crushes dried herbs, mint, lemon leaf, a bit of pepper, into a small bowl and mixes it with warm water. This, she explains, is for rinsing. You swish it tentatively, and it burns in the best way, like a bonfire for your tongue. This keeps your words from growing mold, one elder chuckles. And then, to your surprise, the group begins singing. Not loudly, not performatively, but gently, low, rhythmic, back and forth like a call and response. Their mouths, freshly scrubbed, shape each word with smooth clarity. It's not just a song, it's a demonstration, a lived truth. If you care for your mouth, your voice follows. One of the younger women begins to braid your hair while humming. She pats your shoulder and says, "Your teeth are too quiet. Smile more." You do. And she's right. Even in the dim firelight, your teeth feel new. Not chemically fresh, just respected, like they've been welcomed back into the body after years of being treated like appliances. Historians still argue whether daily oral care in these societies was health-driven or ceremonial. But here's what you see. Each person carries their own stick. Each person tends their mouth with quiet pride. And in a world where speech is sacred, where storytelling, negotiation, and singing are core to survival, clean teeth aren't optional, they're ethical. You realize this when a man leans close and tells a long story about a lion and a rabbit. His words are slow, rich, flavored with smoke and lemon. You're hanging on everyone, not because of the plot, but because the delivery is so clean. No sour breath, no rushed cadence, just rhythm, music, respect. You look around. Every elder here has pristine teeth. Some stained dark from kola nut or age, yes, but clean, respected. You ask, do children learn this early? A woman nods. Before they speak in public, they chew. It's more than routine. It's ritual, preparation, a way to honor others by first honoring your own breath. Later, before bed, you take your chew stick with you. No one tells you to, it just feels right. You bite, you brush, you breathe, and your mouth, your thoughts, feel clearer. Before the sun even dares to rise, you're already at work, sort of. You're seated beside a wide wooden trough with 3 women, a teen boy, and a goat who keeps trying to chew the laundry. The women ignore the goat. You do your best to act like you've done this 100 times. You haven't. Today's task, laundry. But not just scrubbing clothes for the sake of it. This is another lesson in the rituals of cleanliness. In 9th century Ghana, clothing doesn't just reflect your wealth or status. It absorbs your day, dust, sweat, scent, story. And so washing it is less about erasing and more about resetting. One of the women hands you a bundle of fabric that smells faintly of smoke and old millet. "This is the chief's nephew's dance robe," she says, raising an eyebrow. "So do not make it ugly." You nod solemnly. You are 100% likely to mess this up. A girl beside you starts pounding bark on a flat rock, rhythmic and fast, like a heartbeat. The bark, you're told, comes from a lye tree, locally known as kapalgu or afo. When soaked in water and agitated, it releases natural saponins. Yes, the same stuff found in soapberries and modern organic shampoos. Doesn't bubble much, but it bites into oil and dirt like a polite little acid. The pulp is mashed into water, which turns a pale brown. You dip your fingers in, it feels oddly silky, but not slippery. That's the saponin magic. A woman demonstrates. She dunks the cloth, swishes it twice, then rolls it tight like a sausage and slaps it on the flat rock. Whap, whap. W-H-A-P. You follow along. Your first whap is weak. "That's not a slap," someone teases. "That's a hug." You try again. Whap. Better. Laundry here is a group effort. Laughing, scrubbing, slapping. Kids run by with armfuls of wet wraps, and there's a system you barely understand. This pile needs sun, that one needs another rinse. This robe gets scented leaf water only. Someone hands you a new tool, a gourd half filled with smooth pebbles. It's shaken like a gentle rattle, and then used to press moisture from garments. Kind of like a rolling pin, kind of like a prayer. The teen boy beside you wrings out a tunic with arms so efficient he could probably twist water from a stone. He looks at your wrinkled attempt and laughs. "Yours still has the day in it," he says. And you know what? He's right. These clothes have memory. You can smell the campfire, the river mist, the herbs, even a faint ghost of sandalwood. The wash doesn't erase them, it settles them, calms them down. You're taught to add a handful of crushed mint or lemongrass to the final rinse. "So it carries sweetness into tomorrow," the woman explains. You ask if this is for perfume or preservation. "Both," she says, "and also pride." Historians note that traditional West African laundry practices were surprisingly advanced for their time. Not just the ingredients, but the method, the water conservation, the pounding rhythm, the cooling cloth drying racks woven from palm fronds. Some anthropologists even compare it to Japanese tea ceremonies, mundane acts elevated into art by attention, tradition, and shared purpose. There's a moment of silence around the trough, just water sloshing and fabric sighing, when an elder says quietly, "We wash the cloth to wear it again, but we wash our days so we don't carry them forever." And that sticks with you. Later, while helping pin the garments on a line strung between two crooked trees, a breeze picks up. Clean fabric flutters like prayer flags. Your hands smell like bark and mint. Your arms ache, but in that warm, useful way. You sit back on your heels, watching the robes and wraps sway in the wind. They're not perfect. Some are still wrinkled, some stained, but they are clean by the standards that matter here. And suddenly you understand, even laundry is a form of self-respect. To cleanse something is to honor it. To wash a cloth is to thank it for carrying your story. And now, gently, that story is ready to begin again. The air smells different today. There's a spice in it, something smoky and unfamiliar, tinged with clove and citrus peel. You follow the scent like a cat, weaving between courtyards until you find its source. A trio of traders seated under a canopy of dyed cloth, surrounded by tightly packed bundles, jars and satchels wrapped in leather. One of them notices your curiosity and gestures you over with a grin. "Come," he says, "smell something new." And you do. You lean over a small open jar and inhale. The scent is sharp, rich and oily, like pressed spice cake left out in the sun. It's pungent, too pungent, until it isn't. Your nose adjusts, your senses expand. It smells cleansing. Imported from the north, he explains, by way of the desert. What you're smelling, you later learn, is a blend of frankincense resin, powdered myrrh, and a type of amber musk traded through North Africa. This is where cleanliness takes on a new shape, part local invention, part imported adaptation. And the Ghana Empire is full of this, an empire at the crossroads of scent, sweat, salt, and spirit. The traders begin unpacking more of their wares, chunks of dried resin, small sacks of finely ground powders, oil-filled vials sealed with beeswax. A local healer joins you, examining each one with the discerning eye of someone who understands what every herb, every scent does. She tells you that the Arabs brought new ideas of purification, oils that anoint and preserve, pastes that purify the scalp and soften the beard. But we did not copy, she says. We mixed. You're invited into her hut, where she opens a clay pot filled with a dark herbal balm. She scoops some out and rubs it gently on your forehead. It tingles, not unpleasantly. This, she says, has myrrh from the north, cola leaf from here, and oil from the coast. The blend doesn't just smell good, it feels purposeful. And that's the theme of today's cleansing. Intentional fusion. Taking something foreign and making it familiar. Adapting without erasing. You sit in a circle with others as they pass around pots of these hybrid concoctions, creams, ointments, tonics. A woman applies something spicy to her feet, saying it keeps her cool when walking through dry lands. A man uses a paste to rub down his goat's horns, muttering that it calms them before a long journey. And you? You try a little of everything. Your skin is now a living museum of scent, local herbs, imported oils, and fragrant powders dancing together in a symphony your nose isn't sure how to categorize. You're not a person, you're a spice market. Historians love to trace trade routes with arrows on maps, but they rarely pause to ask what happened when those goods landed. What happened when sandalwood met shea? When North African musks kissed local ash? You're watching that story unfold now, in the hands of women blending ingredients that once traveled by camel for months, now rubbed into their children's scalps as a casual afterthought. You ask an older man how long people have been using imported ingredients in this way. He chuckles. As long as there were people to ask, what's that smell? Adaptation, it seems, is just another word for cleanliness, not the sterile kind, not the kind that erases, but the kind that responds to time, to trade, to change. As evening falls, the healer gives you a parting gift, a tightly sealed pouch of powdered bark and resin. Use this when you feel far from your body, she says. You thank her, tuck it away, wonder when you'll need it. Back in your hut, you sit with the smell of all you've absorbed. You feel clean, but not empty. You feel textured, complex, like a poem with layers of meaning. And maybe that's what hygiene means here, not just renewal, but remembering. Remembering that the past touches the present. That imported doesn't mean better, it means blended. That staying clean doesn't mean staying the same. You close your eyes, breathe in all the scents you're now wearing, and smile. You're not just carrying history. The wind changes, you can feel it in your bones before your skin notices. It rolls across the savannah like a slow breath, cooling the air, stirring the tall grasses outside your hut. A woman nearby tightens her scarf and glances toward the horizon. The season is turning, she murmurs. Time to wash differently. And just like that, even the rhythm of staying clean begins to shift. Today, you're part of a transition ritual, one that happens every time the dry season begins to bow toward the rains. It's not flashy, it's not announced, but it's felt. In the way people scrub their homes a little harder, in how clothes are washed twice, not once. In the silent understanding that this isn't just about dirt anymore, it's about preparing for a different world. You begin the day collecting wood ash, yes, again, but this time it's mixed with rainwater caught in large clay pots and left to settle overnight. The result is a cloudy, soft solution that smells faintly of minerals and sky. It's used for a deeper kind of cleaning, one reserved for moments of change. You wash not just to clean, a woman tells you as she rubs it onto her forearms. You wash to close the last season. It's poetic and practical. Nearby, a group of elders sit in a semicircle, rubbing their feet with rough stones and river clay. It looks a little intense, like they're sanding themselves down to bare truth. You try it, it hurts, then tingles, then your feet feel lighter. Children run past, laughing, dunking their hands in a shallow basin filled with sweet leaf water. It tastes like grass, one of them squeals, and you're reminded again how cleanliness here is woven into joy. But there's also stillness, a quiet understanding among the adults that what they're doing matters. That starting a new season with an old stain, on your clothes, on your skin, in your mind, is a kind of bad luck no one speaks aloud. You're handed a strip of cloth, coarse, hand-woven, and scented faintly with bay leaf. For wiping your thoughts, a man jokes, then he nods more seriously. We wash more than just skin. He's not wrong. That afternoon, the scent of citrus bark and mint oil rises from the rooftops. People scrub corners of their homes, re-smoke their robes with perfumed leaves, re-sheen their cheeks with butter. Even the goats seem quieter, like they understand the air is changing. Historians rarely mention this seasonal shift in their records. There are no official texts explaining why people scrub their walls or sweep the same corner 10 times, but oral traditions speak volumes. Cleanliness was always more than hygiene. It was rhythm, season, intuition, a communal exhale. You help one of the women rub down a wooden bench with oil infused with bitter bark. She explains it like this: you don't want the next season to sit on a dirty seat. Makes sense. Later, as twilight pulls long shadows across the compound, you sit beside a small fire. A girl braids your hair, humming softly. You smell like every part of the landscape: ash, mint, bark, sweat, and something citrusy that clings to your neck like memory. Your body feels used, clean, cared for, not because of a single act, but because of days stacked gently on top of each other, routines turned rituals, lessons learned in silence, community expressed through touch. You look down at your hands. They're stained with the colors of the earth, but they feel brand new. Someone passes you a final bowl of warm water and herbs. Wash once more, she says, then sleep. You've done enough. And you believe her, because you have.